It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, you can see on that sharp interactive board, I got a PowerPoint slide up there. It says Canon second quarter results. Folks, today I want to go through Canon's second quarter numbers. You know, Canon's on the calendar year. Their fiscal year matches the calendar. Their second quarter ended at the end of June. Let's go through those numbers. But before we get into the numbers, I put together two slides, and I want to share some thoughts about this industry. Because when I read what these OEMs talk about and just listen to the rhetoric inside this industry, it's really disturbing. And so I wanted to share some of my thoughts on what I believe is coming. Because I think I might surprise some of you, because I'm going to give you some good news. You ready? Let's jump on the sharp interactive board. So ladies and gentlemen, I predict there's going to be a boom right before the bust. See, I told you there'd be some exciting news, but there will be a bust. Let me talk about this a little bit for you. Before I do that, I got to get my sharp interactive board working here. I got my magic pen in my hand. If you'll notice in the middle of my screen, I have 2020 all the way through 2027. And I want to talk to you about our industry. Starting out in 2020 when that crazy virus came and disrupted the hell out of the industry. But what it also did was it gave an awareness to those end users that they really could work remote. That technology's out there that allows their workers to work remote. That technology's out there that allows their workers not to have to scan or print. And so since 2020, folks, just put it on your calendar. Since 2020, that's when the industry's customers started getting aware that they don't need these big giant machines in the hallway. They got the awareness, folks. Since 2020 all the way through 2021, halfway through 2022, these end users started their digitalization transformation. Outsiders that don't give a crap about MFPs, toner bottles, or printers have been helping your end users understand how to keep information behind glass. Setting them up with tools and software and processes to keep information behind glass. You're doing a pretty good job of it. But you know who else is doing a good job? The salespeople at Document Imaging Channel. And they've been talking to these customers about upgrading these machines, even though they don't have the machines to upgrade them with because the industry has supply chain issues. But they've done some finagling with some leases and just doing some really crazy stuff out in the marketplace. Some of the stuff they're doing actually describes the dysfunctions in our marketplace. But needless to say, we have some good salespeople out there, and the OEMs are going to get the equipment. The equipment are going to hit these shores, right? And we're going to go out there and just slam it in these customers' offices one more time. And I believe that's going to happen in 2023. We're going to have the boom. 2023, the year of the boom for the print channel. People are going to get so excited. The OEMs are going to fire up them manufacturing facilities. They're going to start producing way more product than the marketplace needs. And people are going to run around there and give it away, race to the bottom quicker than they raced to the bottom before. You're going to have a boom in machine placements. But you're not going to have a boom in revenues. And unfortunately, the salespeople, they were good and they were able to sell those customers the equipment. But guess what's going to happen? Those relationships that last between 3 and 5 years, the customers are just going to use that equipment less and less and less, and eventually they're just not going to replace it. But when those leases run up 3 to 5 years from 2023, the customers are going to buy print a different way. The new innovators are going to come and sell closer to customer realities than the old way that wants to sell 5-year leases, overspec and oversell A3 equipment. Those days are going to be over with. And the end users, even if the industry is really, really good at overspecking and overselling, and they can continue overspecking and overselling in the years 2024 and 2025, guess what? The end users aren't going to use them because people are going to print less every single day. So folks, the awareness that started back when the virus happened is never going back. Customers aren't going to go back to filing cabinets in the 1950s, okay? They're going to move forward with progress, and they're going to print less every single day, regardless of how good the salespeople are at moving equipment into the marketplace. There's one thing these great salespeople can't do. We can't have print police. Can't go into the marketplace and say, hey, you bought all these A3s from me, you need to start printing to them. I demand you print more. See how stupid that sounds? Reality is, folks, people aren't going to print. It's kind of interesting to me how the industry is laying this out in their mind. Here's the other thing that's not going to happen by the time we get to 2030. We're not going to have these OEM relationships like we have today. Because let me tell you something, folks, as we move from a product-centric deliverable to a customer-centric deliverable, guess what we don't need? We don't need factories, because there are no digitalization manufacturing factories. Zero factories out there that make digital transformation. Zero factories out there that make IT services. Zero factories out there that make cybersecurity services. Those services are developed and created by the dealers that then take those products to the end users. You won't have the OEM relationships you have today. This is a fact. By the year 2030, you won't even recognize the industry that once used to overspec and oversell A3 equipment. You won't even recognize that industry. It will not exist. This is why it's always been a question of mine. What are the OEMs going to do when they can't deliver enough products they make around print into the marketplace with all these other office services that they're doing? The OEMs will definitely make other products. There's no doubt about it. I just question whether or not those friends of mine that sell supply and service print equipment in businesses are going to sell the products the OEMs make. Something to think about, folks, because those days are coming quick. Let's look at the numbers for Canon. Congratulations, Canon. Top line revenue for their second quarter was $7.3 billion total company. Had a profit of $719 million. They're making money. Maybe our friends at Canon, they could do the same thing I suggested that Kyocera do. Put on a workshop for our friends over there at Konica Minolta and teach them how to make some money. So good job on the profit. But back in 2020, it was a Recycler magazine, put an article out there, and they talked about how HP represented about 14% of Canon's total revenue. So Canon's total revenue, 14% of that was coming from HP. And that article was written when Xerox and HP were going to come together, and Canon said, if you all come together, we're going to question our relationship with HP. And that's when we came out with this 14% of the total revenue. That's a big number. If that still holds today, that means of the $7.3 billion that Canon did for their second quarter, HP represented $1.022 billion of that. It's probably safe to say that number hasn't changed much. It's probably been pretty flat, right? But folks, those are big numbers. But here's the reality. Canon, like the rest of our friends, they're conglomerates. Those folks and friends of mine that sell supply and service print equipment, we care about one thing, the print business. And in all reality, our money, the money for that industry, comes from offices printing, office business print. It doesn't come from production. That's just a little bit of the money. It doesn't come from what the people put in their house for $200, okay? That doesn't help dealers that are out there with businesses that deliver print equipment to businesses, supply that equipment and service that equipment. So let's look at the print business. The print business as a whole did $4.1 billion for the quarter with a $486 million profit, 10% margin. Folks, Canon's making money. That's good. You know me, I like people making money. But let's keep this in perspective. $1.022 billion of that $4.1 billion would be coming from HP if they're still 14% of the total revenue, right? Because even though it's the total revenue of Canon, that would be coming out of the print side, okay? So, but printing, there's three different groups, folks. We got printing office, printing prosumer, and printing production. And printing office, we know what that is, those MFPs, right? That's the business that most of my friends are in, right? Those people that sell supply and service print equipment to businesses. Printing prosumer, that's the HP thing, I'm pretty sure. Maybe there are direct businesses in there. Canon Direct USA is in these numbers. They don't separate that out. Thinking about it, are they $1 billion business? Who knows, a year? Where's that number fit? I'm pretty sure it's in the prosumer group. And then printing production. So let's look at these groups on their own. Printing office. Printing office for the quarter did $1.5 billion in revenue. And they don't tell you what the operating profit is for the individual groups. They just tell you the revenue. I wish they'd tell you the operating profit, because it would be interesting to see where the operating profit is. Are they getting most of the operating profit out of the office group, the prosumer group, or the production group? The prosumer group did $1.9 billion for the quarter, and production did $643 million for the quarter. Again, we don't really know what the operating profit was on each one of those. But what are they saying about the office? Folks, they're talking about the new A3 they came out with. They're talking about how we're getting back to a little bit of normalcy with people going back to the office. I got to tell everybody watching me today, please burn this image into your head. I'm going to show you a picture here on my Sharp Interactive board. Burn this into your head. It doesn't matter where the workers are, whether they're in their house looking at their screens or whether they're in the office looking at their screens, people are going to print less every single day. They'll never print more tomorrow than they did today. It doesn't matter where the hell they are. If they're sitting under a tree in the park, if they're in their car, in their home, or in the office. People are consuming information behind glass more and more every single day, and they will never print more. So all you people, quit convincing yourselves that because people go back to the office, they're going to print. They're not. They're not going back to the office. They're not going to be buying filing cabinets. The 1970s are over. I just want you to get that image burned in your head because it really drives me crazy when logical people, supposedly logical people, keep saying that. Let's look at the printing prosumer group. So, folks, here's the bottom line. $1.9 billion in revenue. That's a big number for the quarter, okay? I mean, that's an $8 billion business a year at that run rate. But what are we talking about? We're talking about tanks and inkjet. I hear the word tank and inkjet. I'm thinking, okay, you can put the big tank in the inkjet, but if they don't fill up the tank, it doesn't really matter. You might sell the product once, but if they don't fill it up, it's not going to matter because they're never going to print more tomorrow than they print today. They talk about raising their prices on the smaller stuff. Congratulations on raising their prices. Everybody needs to raise their prices. I've been talking about that now for about 2 quarters. Folks, the weakness in the yen, there's so many things going on. Supply chain, we need to be raising the prices. We need to get used to raising the prices. Now we're going to get hit with lease rate raising, right? There's so many things coming to us as an industry to cause our prices to go up. Let's hope we bring them up at street level. Let's look at this printing production, $643 million for the quarter. Nothing to sneeze at. I mean, that's over $2 billion a year, and almost $2.5 billion a year at that run rate for the year. But production, I got to ask the question, would Canon be in a $2 billion business if they didn't have the HP business? Would they? Would they be in this $2 billion production business if the office business got impacted so bad? Because when the pressures come to the office, when the pressures come with the prosumer group, production, we got all these OEMs playing in production, playing in industrial. It's not a really big market. It's a displacement market. Canon's in a good position because they actually made money in that space. But there'll have to be some consolidation. We all get it, right? And the question is, and I've been saying this for a long time, without that business print, without that ability to overspec and oversell A3, put people in 5-year leases that are prematurely upgraded, and have those people running volumes that we get paid for, the industry looks a whole lot different, doesn't it? And all these other things that we do in the print business, low-end production, are going to be so threatened as that main business gets pressure. Lots to think about, folks. One last slide. I wanted to reiterate this again. It doesn't matter where the hell these people are. They're not going to print more tomorrow than they did today. But I got to ask Canon a question. 50% of total revenue. 50% of your total revenue is coming from the print business. 14% of that total revenue is from one customer, HP. What happens when the industry goes off the cliff? Because it will go off the cliff. Are you going to be able to make up for it in the healthcare space? What are you going to do? Are you going to be the last one making print equipment? Who are you going to gobble up? The other print OEMs? What's the real plan? Because we know it's coming. The other question I'm going to ask Canon again, and I asked him this before. Actually, I just said they would do it. I still believe they're going to do it. And then the leader of the direct operations here in the United States went on the guy with the hat show and said, oh, no, we're never going to do that. We're never going to get rid of our direct operations. That's my question. When are you going to get rid of the direct operations? And what does that mean? What does that mean? I mean, come on, Canon. You could cut a lot of cost. Do you really need that insurance policy of direct operations to control distribution to end users? Probably not anymore. If you're financially sound, you're making a good product. As the other OEMs get pressure, you're in a good position. Dealers will probably start calling you. You're probably starting to call dealers out of the marketplace. There's going to be some shifts in relationships. You know, what was it, a couple of weeks ago? I shared the Konica financials, the bloodbath, I called it. Folks, they can't continue to lose money without something happening, right? Is Canon a resource to go in there and gobble up some of those Konica assets? Could Canon gobble up Konica Minolta's healthcare asset as an example? Because they do pretty well with that healthcare asset in Canon. They actually make money, number one. Could they gobble up Konica Minolta's production business, their print business? Folks, a lot of things are going to change over these next couple of years. But I'm telling you right now, and you don't have to believe me, you could use your own imagination, but by the year 2030, you won't recognize our industry. It'll be unrecognizable because everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all tomorrow.